It can be very frustrating trying to get more done with less time. It can also be frustrating when your puppy decides to grab the loudest toy he possibly can before you go live. But seriously, when I was trying to work on my health, trying to work on my career, having kids, and then wondering like, how am I going to be able to create and start and then run an actual business that's going to be able to take me out of having to work my career full time? And I got to say, like in the beginning, I was focused on the wrong things that was actually creating more overwhelm, more frustration, more like, I don't know what to do in order to make this happen. Why don't I have the time? How are other people able to do this and not me? And when I was not focused on finding the solutions. And so, what we wanted to do today, guys, is we want to share not only a framework to help you be able to turn this around like we did, where we were able to actually do less. And by doing less of the right things, right, we made sure we did the right things. We were actually able to create more in our lives, more time for our family, more time for our puppy, more time for exercise, more time for our career, and more time to develop the business into where we have it right now, right? But there were some tweaks that we had to make both in our mindset and the tactics. And that's really what we want to talk to you guys here today. We want to give you 10 different ways that we found in our lives to create more by doing less. That is really where the power is. And we also want to give you a framework to be able to identify how to ask yourself powerful questions to find the solutions for you as well. And if you're ready to do that with us, you're all in, you want to find these solutions, well, I guess let's go. It's time to redefine leadership. Welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. Our channel is all about empowering entrepreneurs like you to achieve the next level of success in business and life. We believe that you can create a massive impact in the world without compromising your personal life or family time to do so.
We're committed to providing you with actionable tips and strategies weekly to make that possible. So if you're ready to become a modern leader and make a lasting difference in the world, consider subscribing. Turn on notifications and dive into our community. We want to thank you for being here because the world needs your leadership now more than ever. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, guys, there's a lot of things happening in the background. By the way, I want to welcome everybody to this live stream. All of the new people, we want to welcome you with open arms. Welcome to the Modern Leadership family. People who've been subscribed, and also our inner circle members. We have Mike here. We have Amber. What's going on, Amber? Brenda, how are you doing, Brenda? Brenda's already spent like 2.5 hours with me earlier on a call with me and my mentor. But really, we want to say thank you guys for being here, for being willing to lean in, for knowing there's different ways that you can make more time, that you can actually create more by doing less, and being open to finding those answers. And being here literally proves you're the type of person who can have massive success in your business without having to sacrifice your family time or burn yourself out. And how we're going to do that today is we have a list of a bunch of different tried and true methods that we have used to really be able to find new answers, right? Because I know for me personally, I was kind of trapped into thinking the way that I always had done it is the way that it had to be. And because of that, I was not able to find different ideas and solutions that actually took pressure off of me, but it helped us get more results. What do you think about that?
Sorry, I'm still like my mind's still on what's the dog going to do? What's he going to do?
Yeah. So apparently we left him out today and he has decided that he wants to get every single loud toy. He got another one and he wants to bang it against the wall, but it's okay. We're going to succeed anyway, because we're going to think of things a little differently, aren't we? Because that's what we do here at Modern Leadership. So guys, welcome to the call. Super pumped to help take you through this process. Now, here's the thing. I want you to, number one, be in the comments as we go. I want to hear how some of these things apply to you. I want to hear like what things you've never heard before or what things you've tried before and they've actually worked or they haven't worked, because this is going to be a different situation for every single person. Now, as we're going, I do want you to take this into a frame of mind of asking yourself, how does this apply to me? How could this work for me? And the reason why is because that question is so powerful that you will find ways for that thing to work, maybe in a different way than we are actually explaining it. And when you're open to finding like an interpretation of like, well, that won't exactly work for me, but I could take this piece and that will work for me. That's really where success is, because we can't come on here and just tell you all the 10 things that we did and you just immediately duplicate it. We have different things. We have different kids. There's different ages. We have different strengths. We have different weaknesses. We have different business. We have different, like so many other things. And that's why we really wanted to be able to personalize this for you. Now, we're not able to personalize it as much as we normally do inside of the inner circle, which is a very tight-knit group of people that we can go back and forth to, but we can really help you get started today by really asking you some powerful questions to help find these pockets, not only of time, but ways of doing things that'll help you achieve more. So you ready to do that? Ready to jump right in? I think you start with number 1 today, don't you?
Yeah. And I just have to say that I love this format when we do this as a workshop, because it really empowers you to find the solutions within yourself, right? Because like you said, like we can give you all of the steps, all of the secrets, all of that. But when you think that that's the only way to do it, and then you try to apply it and it doesn't work for you, then it does all kinds of things. First off, you feel defeated or you feel less than. And we obviously don't want you to feel that way. We want to empower you to be able to find those answers for yourself, apply them to your specific life, but also to the specific season that you're in.
100%. And Trico, what is going on, my brother? Welcome. By the way, Trico, remind me, send me a text message later. I got something I want to send your way. And Carmen just became an Inner Circle member. Carmen, welcome back. I know you had been a part of the Inner Circle before. Welcome back, my friend. Okay, so let's jump into number 1. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth, kind of share the question that we want you to ask yourself, and then one of the answers that we actually ended up coming up with based off of that question. But the solutions here aren't to be tied to what we give you. The solution is to use the question to really fuel you to find your answers. Okay, ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead. Number 1. And Joanna is here. What's up, Joanna?
Okay, so this question is, how could I prioritize my responsibilities? How could I prioritize my responsibilities? So you want to choose 3. That's kind of like maybe like a sweet spot for the number of like top priorities. And you want to shorten it. You want to shorten the time frame, right? So think about like your top 3 priorities for the week. We have done this a lot with the things that we do, like when we plan out our week. We just choose the top 3 things. And then, of course, underneath those priorities, there's other tasks that are involved. But it just seems like, first off, it kind of creates a more sense of control and less overwhelm, because you don't have like this huge list of priorities. And then we also try to like stick to our values, right? Because like what's most important for us right now, and we can always identify that in like those top 3 things. So doing that can really help you out.
Yeah, and I think there's some of these things kind of feel like in the beginning that it might be a slowdown, like to just sit down and go, okay, like what are the 3 most important things for this week? What are the 3 most important things for today? What are the 3 most important things, whatever.
Yeah.
But like being able to do that, it takes you right now into that plan creation process, so that later you don't have to make a decision. Do I do this or do I do that? I like to like think of it like kind of like it's meal prepping, right? Back when I was like trying to lose weight, I was like, meal prepping is stupid, right? But I also realized that when I didn't meal prep, what I was doing is I was using in the moment, trying to make a decision on whether I should be good or be bad, right? To eat this or to eat that. But meal prepping takes that problem and solves it, right? So the day before, with your conscious mind, you can actually think about, what do I actually want to eat? Then you plan it, you prep it, you do all those things. And then the next day you show up and you eat that stuff, right? Because you've already pre-planned it. You don't have to use any brain space. And what this does is it actually saves us time, because what happens is when we're overthinking things, we're like, well, which one should I do? We all waste so much time just thinking about it and what's the right decision and what's the wrong decision, that before we know it, it's been like an hour and a half. We haven't done anything for our business or our personal life or anything, right? So being able to define this in advance is really, really important. So that's the first question, is how can I prioritize my responsibilities, right? Number 2 is, how could this thing that I'm trying to do actually bring me closer to my family? So how could this thing that I'm about to do actually bring me closer to my family? So when you figure out and identify what your goals are, all right? Now, for me and for us, anytime we work one-on-one, whether it's in the Success Pod or working one-on-one with people, even though it's business related, we always ask them to have a personal and a business goal. And the reason why is because there's this beautiful spot in the middle when you are achieving business success and it's making your family even stronger. And vice versa, when you're becoming stronger with your family and more connected, it's actually making your business thrive. You see, I was in the business of, I think I can only make one work. And so when I was working my business, I was actually pulling from my family. When I was spending time with my family, I was actually pulling from my business. And you could do that, but you could also be more creative and find ways of excelling at both. I just finished. Today is my first day finished with the 75 hard. I did the 75 hard with our team, and today's day 76. I ended up losing like, I think it was 7 or 8 pounds. By the way, we had somebody who lost 31 pounds, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's crazy. But when I was taking on the 75 hard, especially the first time I did it, I think this is the fourth time I did it. But the first time I did it, I was using it as a tool to separate me and my family. I was going and doing two workouts, right? One in the morning, one in the afternoon. And I didn't realize that I could just ask myself that question, like, how could the 75 hard make me closer to my family? And when I asked that question, what I actually ended up finding out is that I could make it be closer to my family by incorporating them in one of my workouts. And so what I would do, and if you look over here, you can't really see it, but over here, there's a calendar on the wall. And what it says is on Monday and Thursday, I go on walks with Alyssa. On Tuesday and Friday, I go along on walks with Andrew. On Wednesday and Saturday, by the way, today's our Saturday, I go on walks with this beautiful one right here. And so I would go on a walk for 45 minutes and have conversations and think about things differently and talk to them and just really thinking about things that they want to talk about or doing things that they want to do and talking about things they want to talk about. And it helped me become even more connected because I asked this question: how could I, even though the fact that this thing says that it's like taking away from me, that's what my brain says, Mark, if you do this, it's going to take from your family. I'm like, okay, it could, but how about if I flip it? How about if I make it like this thing? How could I make this make me closer to my family? Example is like, how could I make, like, Carmen has an incredible podcast. How can I make this podcast make me even more connected to my boyfriend? Right. So when you think about that, you're like, oh, what if I interviewed him? What if I had him on the show? What if and now boom, all of a sudden, now it's like the thing that brings you guys closer together. You just would have never found it because your brain was thinking about like, oh, this is something that maybe is separate. Right. Mm-hmm. And there's different ways of doing this, of thinking about like, how could doing this actually connect me more to my family? Now, boom, you've got instant number of ways. Now, if you heard what I did here is I made the 75 hard walk that I did and family time overlapping so I can excel at both at the same time. It didn't take me any more time. I could have just had 45 minutes of family time and then 45 minutes of working out, but that would have just added more to my plate. So instead, I was thinking about how could I do this in a way that would actually connect both of them? And that's the answers that I came up with. What answers you come up with, that's going to be on you. But I just want to share with you, like, one of the ways that I did that was through the 75 hard, is asking yourself, how could the fact that I'm doing this make me actually closer to my family? And when you do that, it's just a game changer. So I do want to hear from you guys. What comes up for you when you hear this whole idea of how can I excel at both, right? That's really what this is. Mm-hmm. How might I excel at both? So maybe there's a situation that you're going through right now that you're like, oh man, I just realized that literally I had in my brain that I can only excel at one of these. But I want to ask you, like, how could you excel at both? The beautiful place is you don't need to have the answers right here and right now. All you got to do is program it. Program this thought into your mind and then let it take off, because you'll be able to learn and think about so many other things over the next week if you focus your time and attention on that. So that was number 2.
Yeah. And I think that as humans, I think sometimes we default to what we're losing rather than what we're gaining. Mm-hmm. So if you start to kind of reprogram your mind to thinking, okay, what can I gain from this, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you think about 75 hard, a lot of people probably think, oh, it's taking away from them. Like that's like probably the initial feeling that, they're not going to be able to eat what they want, or they're going to have to sacrifice like time to work out. Like this 2 workouts can be a lot, right? So if you stop thinking about what you're going to lose and more of what you're going to gain, this is how you do it. Like you ask yourself, how could you excel at both? How could I get closer to in my relationships by doing this? So I think that that's kind of like the reframe that we can do.
100%. All right. You're number 3. Go for it.
Okay. Lost my notes here.
Hit it.
Okay. So the next question is, where can I delegate or outsource tasks? Where can I delegate or outsource tasks? So, doing the initial thing, I think, because we're not really aware of where we're spending our time or how we're spending our time. And I think the initial thing that we can do is to find that out, like doing an audit of your schedule, doing an audit of your time and the activities that you're actually doing. So this is something that doesn't take a lot of time. Like you just take a few days to just kind of jot down what it is that you're doing and how long it's taking you. And this is like a really eye-opening exercise, because you'll find, and we don't want you to think of it where you're going to feel shame, right? That you feel bad that you're spending too much time on your phone or spending too much time doing something else that you feel like you shouldn't. I want this to be more of a, hey, I'm just becoming aware of this. And now I know where I can divvy up my time. Like, okay, maybe I'm spending a little bit too much time in this area and this doesn't serve me at this moment. So let me adjust. Let me make some adjustments to that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find that you're going to be able to free up a lot more time for yourself, because there are certain things that now you're programmed to be more efficient and be like, okay, I'm spending 2 hours in something that can probably take me half an hour. How can I actually make that happen? So now you start to not only see and become aware of some of the time that maybe you're wasting, and then figure out, well, how can I be more efficient?
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it really, a lot of these seems like it starts with the end in mind. Like
Mm-hmm.
asking yourself, okay, what's the end process? And like, what's a way to get there easier? What's a way that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought of before in order to be able to achieve that?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are going through what you were saying, and what they came up with is like, oh, I can ask my husband to do this. I can ask my kids to do this. I can ask this. And now it takes that task off your plate. But I think like a lot of people don't realize this, that when you take tasks off your plate, you also give away your brain space. So you don't have to think about it
Yeah,
anymore.
that's a good point.
Because when it actually is in bouncing around and you have 72 other things that are bouncing around, it kind of minimizes, like it waters down all you are in all those other places.
Yeah, it's called a mental load,
Yeah.
or like invisible load. Our mental to-do list that kind of really bogs down our brain.
100%. So Joanna, she wrote something here. She's like, cooking healthy meals and having dinner conversations at the table. We got away from that, and now we are back at it. Yes, Joanna. Like one of the thoughts that comes up for me is like, what if you had like a conversation with one of your kids and you're like, hey, what is something that you would love to have for dinner like one night, and that you'd love to make with me, right? And you can actually make dinner with them. And I found that like kids, especially if it's like vegetables, if they're cooking it and they're creating it and putting it together, they're more likely to eat it, that it can actually create a really awesome experience. Remember the adventure challenge we did? So one of the adventure challenges that we did was we had to bake cookies, and we had to do it like in a way where I was blindfolded, and Teresa had to use my hands to bake like the cookies and to put it all together.
Speak to him,
but I couldn't see. And she was like, okay, she couldn't tell me, she couldn't talk to me and go, oh, you're going to crack the egg. She'd have to help me grab the egg, take it and like crack it. And it was like, we're just making food. Right. And so there's so many creative ways when you think about like, how could I make this even closer, that it really does. You can find those answers. Right.
For sure.
Okay. The next one is business related. Okay. So we already talked about how can I prioritize my responsibilities? How could this actually bring me closer to my family? Where can I delegate or outsource tasks? And this fourth one is, how could I reach more of my audience? How can I reach more of my audience? Some of you guys are business owners and you're like, I want to get in front of the right audience. I want to have conversations with the right people who are like ready to go, ready to take action. And I really want to be able to help them. And I feel like I'm struggling trying to do this on my own. So one of the things that I did is I asked myself, how could I find more of my right audience? And one of the things that came up for me is like, what if I connected with people who were already influential in that space, and I actually help them with that audience, which is usually their audience. And as a result, it helped build my audience, but it shortened the curve, right? So one of the things I did is, I have my mentor, Josh Coates, and he asked me at one point to like come in and start teaching in his programs. And I was like, I'm going to be the best teacher ever, and I'm going to do whatever I can to help him. And as a result, he put me on more of his stages. And when he got put on his stages, my following grew. And the people who were like, literally, how many of you beautiful faces who are here this morning are people who came and connected with me via Josh, right? And that's what I was able to do, because I was thinking about, what is a way that I don't have to spend so much extra time spending $1 million on Facebook ads or sending a billion different messages, but that I could actually get in front of the right audience? And it opened up the door of like, oh, well, what if you like were teaching in other people's programs? Or what if you got on somebody else's podcast? Or what if you do something on their YouTube? Or what if you help them within their community? And by doing that, it created some really incredible bonds that allowed me to come in, serve them, and then also have some of their audience going, hey, I really like how Mark teaches. I really like how Mark is about family and all that kind of stuff. And it just naturally helps me because I'm getting in front of the right people, and I don't have to spend the money to do the ads, or I don't have to do any of the marketing or any of that piece. So there's always other ways to do it if you're not trapped in, oh, I can only do this one-to-one on Instagram. Oh, I have to make sure all my reels are just exactly the way they are. If you haven't noticed, like I'm not really the reel king or the post king on Instagram or Facebook, but I have a pretty big following there because I've been able to get in the right positions and on the right stages and talk to the right people, and they help me to experience the growth here. So don't just think there's one right, best, only way when it comes to growing your following. Think of questions like, how could I get in front of more of my people without me having to do as much? And that's what the solution came up for me.
Yeah, I think podcasts are a really big deal.
Yeah.
Because first off, you find someone who has a pretty big following, a pretty big podcast. And if you have something that can really benefit their audience, it's a game changer because you're being put in front of, possibly thousands of people that can now connect with you. And it's a great way to also network and see how maybe they can, if you have your own podcast, you can do a podcast swap. So there's so many different ways. And this is just really about being creative. This is about being creative. And like Mark said, is like, how do I reach more people without actually having to do a lot more work?
Yep. 100%. Okay, number 5.
Okay, number 5 is how could I set boundaries to honor my time and energy? Now, this is a big one because people have a really difficult time setting boundaries because we feel like maybe we're letting people down or we're being too aggressive or selfish. But really, we have to honor our time and our energy because we're not going to be able to create the life that we want if we're constantly putting out other people's fires, so to speak, right? So really setting those boundaries is super important. You got to learn how to say no to like the non-essential tasks that may be draining your time and energy. I mean, if you're a people pleaser, there's probably, I don't know, maybe some of you can put in the comments if you're a people pleaser or a recovering people pleaser. And because we don't really want to let people down, we want to be there for people, right? But I think that we kind of do the opposite when we say yes to everything because our energy is everything. And if we don't have time to really focus on ourselves and our own life because we're too busy trying to help everybody else, then it's kind of like the watered down version of ourselves. We don't show up as our best selves. So really saying no is honoring you and your family, but also the other people because you'll be able to show up for them when you can as your best self.
Yeah. One of the things that kind of comes up for me is as you're saying that, it's kind of like what we talk about in the push method, right? It's like unaligned actions.
Yeah.
And that is like when you're forcing it and you're pushing yourself to do it and you're pushing through where your limits are and you show up really terrible. Not only does it waste your time because you're actually doing that, but it actually pushes people away from you. So if you have the energy like that when you're on social media, it's better, I honestly believe it's better not to post. Because if you have that forcing energy, not only are you wasting the time of putting it together and posting, but you're also now taking it to the next level where you're like, actually, I'm pushing people away. Now, these people are never going to be open to like hearing or thinking or even like, or even potentially like taking it to the next level with me because of that specific situation. All right. I'm going to have you jump into the next one because I'm taking a puppy, putting him away.
Okay. All right. Where are we? Number 6. So how could I make more sales in my business? How could I make more sales in my business? So really, this is about packaging up things you've already done that people would buy. So if you think about all of the content that you've created, and let's say that there's like a theme, or you can look at some of those areas and some of that content that you've already created and actually create a package that people don't have to search all of your stuff to be able to piece that all together. You do that for them and people will pay for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for picking that one up. But 100%, like people usually will, when they think about like making sales, they think about creating something new. They think about talking to more people. They think about like more. But what if instead you took something that you've already done before and you connected to people who've already paid you for things before and you just said, hey, I have this thing. And now instead of you going through and trying to search all 700 of our videos, now we have the inner circle. And we can just do the very specific ones that you need in this specific season in the right order. Watch it from this to this. Like that's what people pay for. They're like, I want to have the quickest and fastest way, not just hey, watch all 700 of my videos and kind of piece it together. Like literally people could do that if they wanted to, right? But instead going, okay, how could I make more sales without having to do more? You think more creatively in terms of, you know what? I use this, I don't know, tracker. I use this specific thing every single week. Why don't I just make it a PDF and sell it? Why don't you do that? Right? It's like one of those things where it's not so complicated that you're like, okay, I've got to put together my program and I got to do this and I got to do that, a landing page and a webinar and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, yes, I love that. Great long term. But also, if you're in the process right now where you're like, I want to be able to do less and actually still make money, like you can tap into that too. Last week, we had a webinar or we had a training within the inner circle. So if you're part of the inner circle, you have access to this. If you're not, you don't have access to it. But what we talked about is 10 ways to make money in your business when you first get started. There are 10 ways where you don't have to work anymore. You don't have to add more things to your plate. You just got to be more creative with the things that you currently do. Some of those things were like affiliate links. Some of those things were like freelancing. Some of those things were like working in somebody else's programs. There was 10 different ones. And all of those things can be done without you having to do more. You just have to think more creatively, right? And by the way, if you do want that, if you sign up for the Inner Circle, you get all access to all of the different videos that we've ever done. Inner Circle is something like $10 a month to be a part of not only the current trainings that we always have every other week, but also you always get access to the previous ones. But that's just different ways that you can think about how to make more money without having to do more. Because people just immediately think, oh, I must have to do more. And the answer is no. I mean, I guess you could think of it that way, but you already have enough stuff on your plate. Let's figure out how to do less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Number 7.
Okay. Number 7 is, how could I optimize my workflow? How could I optimize my workflow? So are there any areas within your work that can be streamlined or made more efficient? This is something that I love because I always want to be more efficient. I want to streamline things. And I was just talking to Mark this week about, so I was on a workshop and they were just talking about like different systems that you use and how you can actually make it so that you're more productive and just more efficient. And I realized that even though like I feel like I'm pretty good at that, that I don't really have something that's kind of like an all-encompassing thing when it comes to when I sit down to work. And I say, you know, I have all of these different pieces, but what if like there was something centralized where I could just show up to this and I would have everything that I would need to do and it was organized and I had checklists and everything like that. So it got me thinking of, well, you know, there's so many different systems out there. How can I use one of those to be able to piece all those things that I do together and become more efficient? Because I know that I sometimes waste time when I'm trying to look at all of the tabs that I have on my laptop. I'm infamous for having like a billion tabs open, and you don't realize how much energy or brain space that takes up. And just knowing that you have like so many different tabs and you're like, you get overwhelmed. So if there is something that you can actually optimize in your workflow, like from start to finish, like kind of work that through and see, okay, how many steps do I have? Can I make it less steps so that I can actually make it feel like I'm not so overwhelmed?
Yeah. The whole optimizing workflow, I think that's going to be a personal thing for everyone. But like even just having a day where you batch process stuff, right? Like even that is optimizing your workflow. Is like, hey, I'm doing all of these things 5 days a week. What if I did them all on Sunday when I was in my flow, when I had my energy, when I had my pre-workout and I was like good to go and the kids were still sleeping? Like you would be able to get more done in less time, right? So I really love that, which kind of leads me to my number 8, which is asking yourself, how could I raise more energy to get more stuff done? So how can I raise my energy so I can get more stuff done? This question brought up a couple things for me. Number 1 is, you guys all know, we like to drink a little bit of pre-workout before we really need to be on our A game. Like the caffeine gives us a little bit of a boost. It's exciting. We get more stuff done when we absolutely need it. I wouldn't drink this and then go, fold the laundry. Like, I don't want to crush the laundry so much that I'm like, yes, I freaking did this.
You should, because then that'll be your task.
I know, you want me to. She wants me to take the pre-workout before the laundry's done. But asking myself this question helped me discover my universal prime time, right? It's like, there is a time during the day, I don't want to say during the day, but like during your 24 hours, that you are the most productive, that you are laser focused, you have the most brain power, you have the most energy, and you could have 4 or 5 different things happen to you and you have no problem. You're like, okay, I got this. Let's do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then you have times for Mr. Mark is after 3 o'clock. If it's after 3 p.m.
I think for
Pacific time, like I'm already like ready to go to bed. All right. And everybody makes fun of me, but like in the morning time at like 3 a.m, I'm like good to go. I will crush whatever I need to. I get, 2 hours worth of work. I get like 5 hours worth of work done in 2 hours, right? Because that's my universal prime time. That's when I have the most energy and I have the most mental capacity to be able to like take control of it, right? So you'll notice that most of the time, unless Josh decides this, because his universal prime time is nighttime, I don't run workshops at night because it's not going to be in alignment with how I need to show up the best. If you work with me as a one-on-one client, you're going to have a call earlier in the day rather than later in the day, because I know I will show up for you on an entirely different level before a certain time. And then afterwards, my brain capacity is tapped and I want the best for my clients, right? So I'm going to do whatever I can to live into my universal prime time. So asking yourself this question of like, how can I raise my energy is not just how can I magically have more energy today? Even though I hope that you can think about your health and your wellness and sleep and rest and recovery and all that stuff, but also like throughout the day where you are right now, how best could you use your universal prime time? Are you using your universal prime time to fold clothes or to clean the house or to do something that maybe you don't need that extra energy for? Maybe you should use that energy for something else that will really help you get more stuff done, right? I mean, at nighttime, perfect example. Like if I have a problem that I have to solve at nighttime, it feels like it's so hard. It feels like it's so much more difficult. And sometimes I'm talking to Teresa and she's like, just sleep on it. And I'm like, what? And then I wake up the next morning, I'm like, I know exactly what to do. And she's like, exactly. Because if you're mentally taxed and you're trying to do the things that matter the most in your business, with your family, like you're not being the best version of you, right? So thinking about this in terms of like, where is it where my universal prime time is and how can I really tap into that?
Yeah, and it's different for everybody because some people, nighttime is their prime time. I mean, I used to have a client who used to say, my prime time is between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. And I'm like, all right, well, that's fine. If it works out for you, that's awesome. And I think sometimes we also can split it up. Like sometimes there's 2 times during the day, but what Mark is talking about, the universal prime time, is from a book called The One Thing. And he talks about this and kind of like the science behind it and all of that, and kind of like how this all works with your circadian rhythm and all of that. So really identifying that for you can be a big game changer.
Yeah. I mean, and just a quick, I don't want to say caveat because Kurt will yell at me if I say caveat, but
you said it twice now.
Did I? But Alyssa, our daughter, her universal prime time is 9 p.m. That's when she's going to be sending 72 million messages to her friends. And
she won't have her phone.
She pretends like it's not, but Teresa doesn't know. She goes onto her computer and she'll send text messages there. But like, that is her universal prime time. Like if I want to have a conversation, I'll have a conversation then because she's on fire. So yes, being able to tap into your version of universal prime time and setting it up is really, really important. All right, go for it.
Okay.
Number 9
is how could I release pressure to do it all? Oof. This is my go-to. This is my jam. So really identifying the tasks that don't contribute significantly to your goals, and also consider eliminating them to create more space for meaningful work. Now, we have this thing sometimes where we think like we need to do it all, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to be what happened?
No, go ahead.
To be there for everybody, to do it all ourselves. And sometimes, it's this thing that we have that we feel like we need to be in control of everything. And if we want something done right, like we need to do it ourselves. And this is where I find, like with my clients, I find that they have a hard time delegating tasks because they feel like they need to do it all. And in fact, like they don't, because someone else can do it and do it much better than they can. And that'll free up some space. But I think this is really a mindset that we have to shift because we can't do it all. It's impossible. And like I said, the more that you like keep feeding into this, the less you're going to feel good about yourself. You're going to have less energy. You're obviously going to have less time. So really identifying those tasks that are important, and then especially those tasks that really don't benefit you in any way, to keep doing.
Yeah. I was actually listening to, I don't know if it was I think it was a podcast, may have been a YouTube video, talking about this like idea of like mental overload. And they were talking about how moms in general like go even further, and how much more difficult it is having the mom role, also owning a business, working full time, all of the things that you put pressure on yourself to be able to do it all. Like, I've got to do it all for my kids, for my significant other, for my work, for my business, for all of these kind of things. And it's like one of these things where it's like a huge mental load because they have so much extra added pressure of living up to this mom
Perfect
thing,
mom.
mom tag, right? And some people call it super mom, right? And it's like, I'm not really sure that that is actually helpful to even think about as being super mom, because it just means I should put myself on the back burner and do everything else for everyone else, right? But I feel like this is a really good like thing to think about, is like, how could you release that pressure? But also, when you do, how will that make you show up even better, right? How will that make you show up even better? I have a client right now who is really struggling with this because like she is everything to her family. Like if she doesn't cook, her family doesn't eat. If she doesn't get people up, her like the life doesn't go on, really. And we're just like having these conversations, and she's having like these little mini wins where she's like, yeah, the kitchen is closed, guys, after this time, right? And she's like, I'll make you food up until this time, but like everybody usually will come up at like 7, 8, 9 o'clock and decide that they want like her to cook like a 6-course meal, and she used to do that, right? And she's like kind of verbalizing it like, hey guys, I'm here. I really want to support you, but I also need some time to myself so I can recover and recharge and come back tomorrow and be the mom that I want to be. And that's going to require me to close the kitchen at this time. And super proud of her for leaning in and doing that. And because of that, there has been days where she's like, I feel so good about it. But then there's other days where she beats herself up about it, saying, well, I probably should have done that. Or my kids are going to like go hungry, right? And it's like, no, your kids won't go hungry. They'll probably go in and sneak some food or do whatever they can, right? They're kind of creative when it comes to that. But it's like all that extra pressure that gets put on, especially moms. And honestly, that's a lot of the people that I coach are moms. So I do see it like time and time again. So what would it feel like to release the pressure? And the second piece is, if you have daughters and you are adding that extra pressure to yourself, what are you setting your daughters up to think about them when they get older, right? For them, it's going to be like, oh, mom did everything, so now I have to do everything, right? So really thinking about this from that perspective, and then just, getting the dads more involved, right? Getting us to step up and to do some things. And I know, and here's one like little tip of advice for the husbands that are out there. Like one of the tips that I was talking about in the Dad Edge group that I teach is instead of just saying, hey, what do you need me to do? Because that's just another added thing for her to think about, like, start doing something and just say, hey, I'm going to go unload the dishwasher. Unless there's something else you think is more important, that's what I'm going to do. And the difference of that is, instead of her having to make yet another decision on like, what do you want to do? How can I help you? It's like, hey, I'm going to go start doing this. I'm going to do this with Rocket. I'm going to do this with Andrew or this with Alyssa, unless you think there's something else better that I could help you with. And like doing that, I've already seen it with Teresa when I've done it, is it takes an extra load off of her. And I'm like, I will do whatever I can to do that, right? Because I see the extra pressure that she adds on. And so if you are the husband, know that obviously is going on in your wife's background, and what it would be like if you just walked up to her and said, hey, I'm going to take care of this. Unless there's something else that you think better I could do, this is what I'm going to do. And it's just that feeling of them just not being by themselves, but you working together as a team. Really, really powerful tip there.
Yeah. Before you move on, like that question, like, what can I help you with? It's like the normal response, or like the impulse response is nothing, but deep down inside, you're like, oh man, I got this long list of things to do. So I like that approach of like, hey, I'm going to take care of this for you, or like even going further, kind of like a little bit of a side note. I actually met a coach who is a relationship equity coach. And this is literally all she talks about. So I'm actually going to try and get her on the podcast, because I feel like this is something that we really need to normalize and just talk about, because like having like a relationship where it feels like you're equals, right? And like there's the share of responsibilities is kind of like distributed, like maybe not equally per se, but it's a healthy like thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team thing, right? It's not like individuals. I see a lot of people do that, where even in business, like they're like, hey, this is just me having to do this. I'm like, well, I guess you could, but like, how could you actually do this as a team, right?
Yeah.
Same with marriage and kids and like being on the same team versus being different, That's just a huge relationship thing.
Yeah.
Huge relationship tip here. Okay, number 10. Next question is, how could I speed up the process of success in our business? So how can I speed up the process of success in our business? Now, I want to tap this in. I want to tap you into this one. Before I share with you what our answer was, I want to tap into your experience, thinking about some of the things that you have done or situations you put yourself into or decisions that you've made. What are some things that have sped up your business in the past that you could move into the future, right? So I want to take a few seconds here just to actually get some feedback from you. I know normally we do inner circle calls like this where we actually get to communicate a lot more, but I really want to like capture this one for you guys is ask yourself, how could you speed up the process of success in your business, like without having to do any more? So I want to hear in the chat what comes up for you. What comes up for you? What are some ideas or things that maybe have given you more energy or more time or got more stuff done in less time? What are some things that pop up for you? What are some things that pop up for you, by the way, before I share my answer? Don't look at my answer, by the way.
Wait, what's your answer?
Don't look at my...
Oh, I peeked. No, I'm just kidding.
So what are some things that you found that speed up the success in our business?
It's prioritizing for sure. Because I mean, this goes back to kind of like wanting to do it all. It's like really you have to prioritize, and it changes over time because it really depends on where we are in our business. And we have kind of like these talks sometimes to kind of identify that, because especially when we start to feel that pressure, we start to feel like this is a little bit too much. We need to, reprioritize.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So here's what we have so far. Joanna's on the same page as you. She's like lists of tasks, prioritize, right? Yeah. Brenda, why are you reading my notes? Stop it. She said, connect with communities and persons who already did what you want to do.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to share that in a minute. Carmen says, creating workbooks, putting them for sale in Patreon, hiring a VA. I'm going for walks on with my boyfriend. Did I say walks on my boyfriend? Please don't walk over your boyfriend, please. Okay.
Is there a chiropractor?
Have dedicated times to actually work on my business. Mike, yes, my friend. Christina says time blocking and finding times of joy.
I like that.
That last part really hit me. Christina, how do you find times of joy? I want to hear about that. Well, here, give me some examples. Carmen says delegation and honoring my capacity and internal boundaries. Yes. Trico says not being afraid to engage in conversations with people. Yes, my friend. Didn't we have that conversation together? Mike says, I felt like I'm starting over. So trying to figure out what I actually want to do and do it. Okay. So Mike, here's what I want to throw this back at you. When it feels like you're starting over, like when you think I'm starting over, how does that make you feel? And when you feel that way, like you're starting over, what are some of the actions you take when you feel like you're having to start over? I don't know about you, man, but that feels like terrible in my body. I feel like, I'm starting over from zero. Brother, you're not starting over. You're starting from wherever you currently are right now. You have knowledge and experience and training, supervisor in multiple different businesses. You've run a fitness business before. You have all of this personal knowledge and experience that you've taken out of being an incredible father. Like you've learned so many things. You never have to give that back. The only way you give that back is if you believe that you're starting over. You're not starting over. You're just starting wherever you're currently at. I would highly encourage you that if you're climbing a mountain, you get to the half point, that you don't walk all the way back down. You just take a nap. And maybe you wake up a little bit later. Maybe you're hibernating. And guess what? You're still halfway up the mountain. You get to jump back in. Do you need to create some momentum? Yes, you do. You do have to create some momentum, but you're never starting over, right? Never starting over. You have all of that experience that you've brought with you, and you're bringing it into the next mountain. Anna says, plan in advance. Good morning, Amber. Or Anna. Good morning, Anna. Amber says, intense focus, direct action aligned with my personal and professional goals. I like it. It kind of sounds like a tagline.
Yeah, it does.
Intentionally unplugged time with my family. Amber, yes. Isn't that crazy? I was talking to Teresa about this. I was like, you know what? When I feel like I'm most on point is when I've spent time away from home with family. Like when we went to Yosemite. Like I did a little bit of work in the morning. I always do work in the morning. I just love it. It fuels me when I spend an hour or two in my business. But like afterwards, getting to like go walk in the snow and do all the kind of things that us Californians don't get to do too often, it totally recharges me on a different level the next day. What's crazy is like if I have a Sunday where I don't have anything planned and we're here at home, it's not the same thing. It's weird. It's like I feel like just being here at home and in this environment, it still feels draining
because this is your work too.
And I'm always trying to do, okay, what do I have to do next? Oh, who do I need to spend time with? All this kind of stuff. And it actually feels draining. So thinking about that, for me, it's like going somewhere else, which is why after this, Teresa and I are going to go to the coffee shop, have a little bit of like a mini date day. She's going to do help me brainstorm a couple different things I want to, but it'll be outside of this because it'll help me feel recharged, right? So being able to tap into what actually makes you feel recharged is going to be different for everyone. But I also found intentional unplugged time with family does the same for me too, Amber. Christina says, my biggest way is getting into nature to allow more space for more creative ideas to come in and get energized. Mine too, Christina. I will go on walks. That's why you hear me going on walks with my family. But on Sundays, I go on walks by myself. And a lot of other times after my first workout by myself, which is super early, only Teresa's really up, I will go on a walk for like 15 or 20 minutes afterwards for that same reason, to give my brain some ability of like downloading some new stuff, right? You guys have so many incredible, powerful things here. Now, I want to go back to the one thing that Brenda said, because that is what has made the biggest and significant difference for me. So when I ask myself, how can I speed up the success in my business? It is always finding groups of people, mentors, people who've achieved that thing, people who already know the path to get there, and they know what it is they struggle with in order to be able to achieve and accomplish it. Like so many times I even join programs, and then from there, I'm like, okay, how do I work one-on-one with the person? Because I love a program, but I also know working one-on-one with them is like a total game changer. So for me, what I do is I ask myself, who is someone or who's a team who has been able to achieve what I want to be able to achieve? And how can I get in there as quickly as possible? For me, if it's free, I'm going to be honest, I don't show up the same way that I want to. Then if it's paid, even if it's a little bit of money, usually a lot of money makes me take a lot of extra action, right? But it's like this thought of like, I want to speed up the process with people because success leaves clues, right? That's why the group of people that I decide to spend the most time with is critical when it comes to where I'm looking to grow and where I'm getting or where I want to be able to like achieve my goals. And for me, it's both personally and professionally, right? So when I think about a group of people, I think about, I want to grow in my business. I also have to make sure that it's in alignment with me growing like as a father or as a husband, because that's my core values. That's why finding a group like that is so really important. I mean, that's literally why we put together our inner circle, because we are a group of people who believe that you can have massive success in your business without having to sacrifice your family time or your personal health in order to do so. And when you're around other people like that, it just naturally gives you more energy, but also more ideas, more creativity. How many coaches we have in our group, master coaches. Of course, we have us that actually teaches inside of the life coach certification. But it's really powerful when you have a group of people who've done it before and they're willing to share those secrets and those answers with you. So that is always my way of speeding up that process, because I don't want to take the slow road, which is what Mark did for a very long time, trying to figure it out on my own. Reading books is great, and that's the first step. But it was like, how do I actually get into an environment where people are actually doing this, right? That's how I got this. How can I excel at both? I think about like if I had not joined the Data Edge Alliance, which now I teach for, which is crazy. But when I first joined it, like I thought, I can only have success in my business, or I can only have success in my career, right? Or I can only have success with my health. And on one of the coaching sessions, he's like, Mark, it seems to be that there's like a miswiring in here saying that you can only have one or the other. How might you have both? How could you excel at both? And that one simple question was like, wow, I never thought of that. And then being in the environment of people who are like, yeah, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. Here's how I do that. Here's how I do that. Now it's like normal for me to do those things. And let me tell you, the rest of the world does not believe it's normal. The rest of the world believes you have to hustle your face off to own a business. You have to sacrifice your family. It's a season of your life that you need to go through. And I'm like, no, not on this channel. We're not. It's not a season of life that you have to go through. That is a way of creeping your head voice in, saying that it's not possible, because it's easier for us to believe that we don't have to be more creative. It's easier for us to believe like I could just stay exactly where I'm at. And if you're hanging around other people who are refused to take that answer, refuse to put their life and their family and their health on the back burner, it helps you speed up the process so much. Like I said, that's why we have our inner circle. And I know so many of you guys are here. I'm preaching to the choir. So many of you guys are parts of the inner circle. And I'm so proud of you for leaning in, for joining these calls, for participating, going back and forth like this. And I know next week we have a really, really powerful call. I'll talk about it in a minute. But I'm just so proud, no matter if you're a part of the inner circle or not, that you're willing to take these actions to see things differently and to really create more in your life with less. Anything?
Nope. Mic drop.
Okay. So now next week, guys, I want to share with you, and then we're going to pick a card, by the way, for those of you guys who don't know, every week we pick a card, a question of the week that we will ask our family at the dinner table. We want to share some of those questions with you guys. But next week, what we're doing is we are putting together a very special exclusive call for our Inner Circle members that talks about how to build mental toughness in your business. So I went through the process of the 75 hard. You guys kind of heard that. I lost 8 pounds, I think. I feel really great. My Crohn's is like really doing well. But what I didn't tell you is that I also like actually created more momentum in my business because of what I did in the 75 hard. I also created more connection with my family because of what I did in the 75 hard. And so what I want to do is I want to take some of the principles of the 75 hard and I want to show how you can create a 75 hard in your business where you can actually create massive momentum, just like you do with your health, just like the guy lost 31 pounds, right? But do that in your business as well, because you're building the mental toughness that you need to be able to stay the course. So if you're part of the inner circle, definitely check out the app. I'll post it inside of the community tab here on YouTube so that you have access to it. If you're not a part of the inner circle and that's something you want to do, definitely click the join button below. You can learn about some of the inner circle, see if it's something that you want to, even if you just join for that call and then cancel. I don't care. I just want to bring this kind of information to people who really, truly need it. So we're going to talk about how to build mental toughness in your business. Okay. Ready for the question?
Yeah, but did you want this one or the other one?
That one.
Okay.
So we have 2 different boxes. One is for young kids and one's for a little bit older kids because our kids are 13 and 14, right? I don't know. They keep changing. It keeps changing every year. I don't know what's up with this. Okay. So here's the question. What have you found to be most rewarding about being a parent? This is for you guys, for you parents out there. What have you found so far that has been most rewarding about being a parent? Now, I do want to ask Teresa. Yeah, I do want to ask Teresa this. But one of the things you can do is with this word being a parent, you can change that for anything. Yeah. Right? You can change this for your kids and say, guys, what have you found to be most rewarding about being a son or being a daughter or being a kid or being a coach or being a business owner? You can literally change that to be anything. The power is in how it's framed in terms of the question. That word at the end can be anything. But I'm curious, what have you found to be most rewarding about being a parent?
I think just watching our kids grow up, like the different years and how they develop and all of that, and some of the things that they go through and how that changes year after year. Is kind of just seeing them grow up is just, I think, the most rewarding. Yeah, it's fast though. I know we like watch videos every once in a while. We're like, what happened? What happened to those babies? Now they talk back and all this kind of stuff, right? So what do I find most rewarding about being a parent? I think it's very similar to that. It is like seeing some of the things that we're doing, that we're saying, how we're showing up, show up in them in their life. I mean, one of the things that I remember is very vividly is going on a walk with Andrew and him talking about like wanting to get up and to work out and to exercise. And I was just talking to him about like, okay, when he feels like working out and exercising, like, what are some of the things that maybe he's telling himself or what is he thinking? And so he was just going back and forth around that. And I'm like, so on the days that you don't get up, like, what do you tell yourself when the alarm goes off? And he was kind of going back and forth. And then I can see it was like like a light bulb moment. He's like, Dad, are you talking about the thing you wrote about in your book? And I'm like, first off, I didn't really know that he actually read my book. I thought maybe he just saw it. He was like, yeah, those limiting beliefs things. Is that what's happening here? And I think for that, it was like a full circle moment that I was like, oh my gosh, like they actually are listening. They actually are watching. They actually are seeing what we're doing. And we are by far not perfect. And I'm sure he's picked up plenty of things that I'm gonna hit myself for later. But in reality, getting to see that I think is so awesome because it's like the work that we're putting in, not only to like our careers, our health, our business, and our family is like really coming back and paying us back in dividends because of the type of humans that they are. So that's what I would say is that is kind of like the most rewarding thing. So Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Amber asked, like, what are you reading from? So Amber, we have a list, or we have a box, 2 different boxes of questions that we keep on our dinner table all the time. And what we do is on days where all the days we sit down and have are sitting and having dinner together, we pull a card, and it's just a question that we all answer while we're eating. And so we pull a card now at the end of every single live stream to share this with you so that you can share this question with them. But also, this is also something else that you can ask your significant other, right? So like, what do you find to be most rewarding about being a husband, or about being a boyfriend, or about being whatever, right? These kind of questions just help fuel a lot of great conversations and connections, because that's what we're all about here. Creating connections, not just creating connections in your personal life, not only creating connections in your relationships, not only creating with your customers and the people online, but like creating connections in all aspects of things, including the most important relationship, which is the connection that you have with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And if we can ever do that, like that is what we are here to do. I feel like we're put on this planet and put into this room together so that we can do that for you guys. And we appreciate you, like we always say, for being here, being willing to lean in and sharing all of these beautiful answers here, which, by the way, if you are just getting on, definitely go back and read all of these different live comments, because there's so much gold and wisdom here, and find that piece that really connects to you. All right. So proud of you guys for being here, for being on this mission, for being the parents, for being the business owners, for being the leaders the world needs now more than ever. We hope to see you next week on our Inner Circle call. And you guys have an incredible weekend with your family, and we'll see you next time. All right. Keep leading from the front, everybody. Bye.
Bye.